Have you ever wondered why the things you've been manifesting still feel out of reach? Why the abundance you've been calling in, the wisdom you've been asking for, still dances just beyond your grasp? Even though your heart is open, your intentions are pure, and you've done everything you were told would work. Affirmations, prayers, surrender, and yet something remains. Just slightly out of view? It's not failure. It's not punishment. It's the build-up before the bloom, the stillness before the shift, and July 2025 may be the very moment that quiet energy begins to unfold, not through noise or luck or chance, but through something far older and deeper, a rare convergence of planetary alignments, ancient numerological pulses, and unseen forces that for a brief window come together not to shout, not to promise, but to gently open a door that has long been waiting for your arrival. You won't see it with the eyes of the world. It doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle, but it speaks in the subtle language of the universe, in repeated numbers that appear in the strangest places, in times on the clock that feel like messages meant just for you, in quiet echoes that follow you until you finally pause long enough to ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Most people don't. Most people dismiss it, but those who are awake, those walking with soft steps and open hearts, know that these patterns are not accidents. They're invitations. Even mystics like Baba Vanga and Nostradamus understood this. They saw in their visions moments where the fabric of reality grew thin, when the veil lifted ever so slightly, and those who were ready could glimpse what lies beneath, what lies beyond. Because transformation does not always come with thunder. Sometimes it comes in silence, when your soul is finally ready to meet what it has always known. In the Buddhist path, luck is not random. It is the meeting point of preparation and timing, the sacred intersection where inner readiness aligns with divine movement. And when that happens, numbers begin to show up, not to tease you, not to distract you, but to awaken something that has been asleep for too long. And that is why today, I'll be sharing 6 of these sacred numbers, each one a frequency, drawn from the well of Buddhist wisdom, astrological alignment, and ancient spiritual maps meant to unlock your path to divine timing. And if you stay until the end, there is one final number, a hidden one, that doesn't just amplify your energy, but clears away the old, unsticks what's been stuck, and opens the doors you thought were closed. If you are ready to listen, if you are quiet enough to hear, so take a breath, not a shallow one, but a true inhale into your being. Let go of the outside noise, feel your energy come home, and if you feel the call, hit like to anchor this moment in, subscribe to Buddhism Mindset to walk this path more deeply. And in the comments, write, "I trust the signs, I follow the path, I welcome abundance," because now we begin. Have you ever felt like life has quietly set you down in a waiting room, not marked by celebration or spotlight, but by silence, a space where the days pass without applause, where progress is not made in leaps or breakthroughs, but in slow breaths, small steps, and invisible victories known only to your soul, where you're not falling apart, but not quite soaring either, just somewhere in between, quietly holding yourself together in a sacred stillness that no one else sees. That's the essence of this number, the one that doesn't crash into your life like lightning or parade itself in golden light, but instead arrives like dusk, like a presence you can't name but feel, soft, steady, unwavering. It shows up when you sit with yourself, not trying to escape, not pretending to be okay, just present, with everything. It walks beside you in the nights when the tears don't fall anymore, not because the pain is gone, but because you've become strong enough to carry it without breaking. This is not the number of the spotlight, of sudden success, of overnight change. This is the number of sacred rebuilding, where the breaking has already happened, and now, stone by stone, breath by breath, you begin again. Not because you have to, but because something within you refuses to stay broken. In numerology, 1 is the flame, the courageous beginning, the act of saying yes to life again, even when everything in you is still afraid. 7 is the seeker, the part of your soul that cannot rest until it understands the deeper why, the part that chooses growth over comfort, questions over surface. And when these two forces unite, they form 8, karmic energy, infinite return, the spiral of transformation that promises, what you give in truth, you will receive in power. But this number does not arrive to impress. It isn't flashy. It doesn't chase wealth or recognition. It moves with those who've known darkness and stayed awake. It finds the ones who've fallen without witnesses, cried without sound, healed without help. This number comes for the real you, the one who's been growing quietly behind the scenes, choosing integrity over ease, depth over distraction, and effort over escape. In Buddhist teachings, this is the embodiment of right effort, not action for show, not hustle for validation, but the steady, sacred work of tending your inner world because it is yours, because your peace is your responsibility. And it is no coincidence that this number resonates with Saturn, the great teacher, the planet of karma, discipline, time, and truth, because Saturn doesn't bless illusions. It blesses what's earned through quiet consistency, through silent battles, through effort that no one sees but the universe does. So if this number has been appearing on doors, on clocks, in the background of your days, it is not random. It is the whisper that says, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not forgotten, you are being reshaped, you are not in a void, you are in preparation. And what is being prepared through you, this new strength, this deeper wisdom, this unshakable clarity, is nothing short of powerful. Let the world rush, let others chase. You are building something eternal. And it starts right here, in the stillness. Have you ever looked up and realized that your days have blurred into one long loop, where morning melts into night and nothing really changes? Where you wake, you scroll, you do the things, you whisper to yourself that maybe tomorrow you'll break the pattern. But somehow tomorrow keeps looking exactly like today. The routine feels safe, but it also feels lifeless, like the soul of your life has quietly slipped out while you were busy surviving. And then, without warning, something tiny cracks through. A midnight thought that hits too deeply. A lyric in a song that feels like a memory you've never had. A still moment that shakes you and makes you think, I can't keep doing this. That flicker, that invisible yet undeniable tug in your chest, is the arrival of 5. Because 5 doesn't creep in quietly. It moves like a gust of wind through a room that's been shut too long. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It stirs, it shakes, it interrupts. It's the fire alarm of the spirit, the sacred disruption that shows up not to cause chaos, but to break the spell of stagnation you didn't even realize you were under. Where other numbers comfort, 5 awakens. Where others affirm, 5 challenges. In Buddhist numerology, 5 carries the vibration of sacred disruption, not destruction, not recklessness, but the necessary shift that comes when the soul has been trapped inside too many shoulds, too many roles, too many patterns that once protected but now imprison. Because even peace becomes poison when it keeps you small. And 5 is the refusal to stay small any longer. It doesn't come to tear down your life. It comes to remind you that you have one. It jolts you back into motion, back into aliveness, back into possibility. It brings with it the breeze of Mercury, the planet of communication, clarity, and movement. And in July 2025, this energy is amplified. Mercury doesn't nudge, it declares. It opens the windows and tells you the air has changed. This number isn't random. When it begins appearing on receipts, in timestamps, in phone numbers or page numbers, it isn't coincidence. It's confirmation. It's the universe tapping your shoulder with urgency. whispering, "This is not the end. This is the turning point. This is where your story picks up momentum again." Buddhism teaches that suffering is born not from change, but from clinging. Clinging to what no longer serves, clinging to safety that suffocates, clinging to imagined limits that have already expired. 5 arrives to loosen your grip, not with cruelty, but with fierce compassion. It says, what you fear leaving might be the very thing that's holding you back. You are not stuck. You are paused. And that pause was never meant to be permanent. Now, it's time to move. Because abundance doesn't arrive when we sit perfectly still, waiting for a perfect moment. It comes when we take one small, imperfect, courageous step. 5 reminds you that miracles don't belong to the motionless. They belong to the ones who say yes, even when they're scared. They belong to the ones who press play. And this number, this moment, is your sign. It doesn't shout, it doesn't flash, it arrives like a soft rhythm beneath the surface, barely noticeable at first, until it starts showing up again and again. In the corners of your day, on a receipt, in a random address, the end of a timestamp, the kind of repetition that doesn't demand attention, but earns it, subtle, gentle, but too precise to ignore. And it always comes at the same moment, the moment when you're no longer chasing answers, no longer desperate for signs, when your soul is quiet enough to notice something it had overlooked. That is when 14 begins to stir. Because this number doesn't crash through doors or create chaos. It emerges when you're ready, truly ready, not to start over, but to begin again with deeper awareness, not from fear, but from clarity, not from desperation, but from wisdom. 14 shows up when the fire has already passed, when the pain has already been processed, when the old wounds no longer define you, but have shaped something wiser within you. It is a mature energy, one that only reveals itself to those who no longer want to repeat old cycles, who no longer seek distraction, but want to build something lasting and true. In numerology, 1 is the vision, the inner whisper that there's more, the calling you can't unhear, the quiet certainty that something is unfolding just beyond your current horizon. 4 is the foundation, the sacred builder energy, the planner, the stabilizer, the one that wants to do it differently this time. Not perfect, but intentional. And together, they become 5. But not the disruptive, chaotic 5 of early transformation. This is a grounded 5, one that moves forward with purpose, with roots beneath its wings. And when this frequency blends with the energetic current of July 2025, with Mercury's clarity, with Saturn's quiet tests, with the growing alignment that whispers, "You've done the work," 14 becomes less of a signal and more of a green light. Not a command, not a shove, but a whisper you feel in your bones. You're ready now. Not because everything is perfect, not because fear is gone, but because your spirit is steady, your feet are grounded, and you finally trust the part of you that knows the way forward. This number is not about speed. It's not about proving anything. It's about aligned action, movement that comes from presence, from awareness, from spiritual integrity. It's the moment when preparation meets opportunity, not as a flash of luck, but as a quiet confirmation that what you've been waiting for has been waiting for you too. So if you've been holding back, telling yourself you'll move when it's clearer, when it's safer, when it feels more certain, know this: that clarity isn't coming from outside you. That confirmation isn't hiding in the stars. It's already within you. And this number, it's not the answer. It's the reflection of the truth you already carry. You don't have to wait. You're not too late. This isn't the beginning. This is the return. The continuation of everything your soul already knows how to do. It looks like nothing, just 2 parallel lines, silent, balanced, still. But the more it appears, the more something inside you starts to lean in, not in fear, not in confusion, but in a kind of quiet recognition, as if something is watching. Yes, but more truthfully, as if something within you is beginning to wake up, because 11 is not a number in the ordinary sense. It is a mirror. And when it shows up, it's not telling you something new. It's reflecting what you already know, what you've already sensed, what your spirit has whispered long before your mind was ready to listen. This is the number that finds you standing on the edge of a deeper awareness. When you start feeling shifts in the atmosphere before anything changes, when your dreams begin to carry messages instead of noise, when silence feels fuller, denser, almost like it's speaking to you directly. 11 doesn't push, it doesn't explain, it opens. And what it opens is you. Because in the Buddhist path, there is no greater power than presence. Not the kind of presence that is performed or seen, but the kind that is felt, the kind that exists when the mind quiets and the moment expands, and you begin to notice how much you already know, how much you already are. 11 is the embodiment of that presence. It is a gentle invitation to trust yourself, to see with more than just your eyes, to believe in what doesn't need proof. This number won't flood you with answers. It will heighten your sensitivity so that the answers can rise from within. It's the reason you feel certain things before they happen. The reason your intuition has grown louder, more persistent. The reason time feels different, conversations feel deeper, and ordinary moments feel laced with meaning. You haven't changed randomly. You're tuning in. And as Uranus moves through the sky, awakening insight, disrupting illusions, clearing paths that once felt blocked, 11 becomes a kind of spiritual antenna, pulling you into frequencies most people miss, not because they can't hear them, but because they've forgotten how to listen. And now, you're remembering. If this number has been following you, slipping into your day like a shadow on the wall, appearing on digital clocks, on doors, in dreams, don't ignore it. It's not coincidence. It's your compass returning. So don't rush past it. Don't explain it away. Pause, breathe, feel. That small whisper rising inside you, the one you've been brushing off, doubting, hiding, isn't your imagination. It's your guidance. And if you follow it, you won't need the map, because you'll realize you are the map. Some numbers feel like keys, others feel like doors, but 27 feels like both. It doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't crash into your awareness. It just lingers, softly, quietly, consistently. You weren't searching for it, but suddenly it's everywhere. In the moments between thoughts, on receipts you didn't glance at twice, in passing numbers that somehow hold your gaze longer than they should. It doesn't scream. It hums. And that hum is the sound of something sacred preparing to unfold. 27 doesn't come to the beginning of the story. It shows up at the edge, where one cycle ends and another quietly prepares to rise. It's the vibration of closure with depth and emergence with wisdom. It's not about rushing forward or looking back. It's about honoring everything that brought you here, while beginning to listen for what comes next. 2 is the number of intuition, union, duality, your connection to both the world and your inner voice. 7 is the seeker, the one who walks alone if needed, who trusts the invisible path, who hungers not for answers, but for understanding. And together, they form 9, the number of culmination, of spiritual fulfillment, of things finding their highest expression before they return to source. But 27 isn't just about endings. It's about the sacred pause just before something greater begins. The moment where you finally realize that your experiences weren't random, your pain wasn't punishment, and your waiting wasn't wasted. It's the number of spiritual alignment, a whisper that everything is converging not just for change, but for elevation. In Buddhist thought, this is the space between death and rebirth, the bardo, the threshold, where the soul chooses again. It's where karma reveals its quiet mathematics, where intention and awareness become the architects of what's next. And under July's energy, with Neptune dissolving illusions and Saturn demanding authenticity, 27 becomes a bridge between your old identity and your true self, the one that's been patiently waiting beneath the surface, ready to emerge. If this number is following you, showing up in random moments that feel anything but random, it's not coincidence, it's invitation, a call to honor your journey, not just the light, but the shadows that shaped you. It's a reminder that spiritual maturity isn't about perfection, it's about wholeness. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're in between. And this in between, it's not nothing, it's not a void, it's sacred ground. So breathe, soften, listen, because what's coming isn't just new, it's true. And this number is the quiet signal that you're finally ready to receive it. And now, as we reach the end of this journey, I invite you to pause, not for the screen, not for the words, but for yourself. Breathe gently, feel your shoulders drop, your jaw loosen, your chest soften. Let the energy of these numbers settle, not just in your mind, but in the deeper spaces, the ones that rarely get quiet enough to hear. Because this wasn't just information, it was activation, a sacred remembering, a mirror held up to the parts of you that have been quietly growing, even when no one noticed. Especially when no one noticed. These numbers weren't random. They didn't show up to entertain or distract. They came with purpose, with pattern, with precision. Each one, a thread in the tapestry of your unfolding. Each one, a breath from the universe, whispering, "You're not lost, you're aligning." And now that you've heard them, not just with your ears, but with your intuition, something within you has already begun to shift. There's nothing left to chase, nothing to prove, just a deeper trust to return to. So if your heart feels calm right now, honor that. If your soul feels seen, protect that. And if a quiet voice inside says, "I'm ready now," believe it. This is not the end. This is the quiet beginning of everything that finally makes sense. If you feel called, hit like to ground this moment into motion. Subscribe to Buddhism Mindset if your spirit wants more. And in the comments, write, "I trust the signs. I follow the path. I welcome abundance." And then, exhale, because something sacred has begun, and it's already within you.